It's time for the Writer's Block, our weekly look at all things sports. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the studios at the Oklahoman, joined by Cedric Golden from the studios at the Austin American-Statesman. Hello, my friend.
What's going on, Jay Carr?
You know, just trying to dodge tornadoes and floods in Oklahoma. So
wow.
That's a full-time job right now. But let's talk some sports. Let's talk the fun stuff. Get off the real world for a segment. Let's start with our lead segment, and that is the NBA Finals getting ready to crank up. Finally had a little bit of a delay after the Warriors got in, then the Raptors joined the party. Is this a case of a Canadian team becoming America's team, Cedric? Is everybody that's not already a Warriors fan pulling like crazy for the Raptors?
I don't think so. I mean, here the difference between the NBA and the NFL, it seems to me that the NBA at its best points of its history flourished because of dynasties. Bill Russell's Celtics, Magic Johnson's Lakers, Michael Jordan's Bulls, and now Steph Curry and company at Golden State. The NFL is different because everybody hates the Patriots for obvious reasons. But the fact that the NBA, its glory days are always synced up with the best dynasties performing. I forgot the Spurs with Duncan. So when that's going on, I think business is better. I don't think the NBA fan base overall is ready for Toronto to be the darlings of the league. As far as business is concerned, I think it's better for the NBA if Golden State wins. They got more star power, even though Kawhi Leonard is a great player and the Raptors have Drake and a whole country behind them. Golden State moves the needle a lot more than the Toronto Raptors. So I think if people are pulling for the Raptors, it's because they want something new. But there are a lot of Steph Curry fans out there and a lot of Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson fans. It's America's game, so they probably need to keep the trophy in America.
Maybe I just live in a place where people are so against the Warriors, it skews my whole perception. I mean, for obvious reasons, no Warriors fans, or very few Warriors fans, around these parts here in Oklahoma City after, obviously, Durant's departure in 2016. So I do have to say, though, I'm curious to see how this shakes out. I mean, we've seen the Warriors without Kevin Durant roll through the Western Conference Finals. It was the Warriors of yesteryear, if you will, powered by Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. We saw that movie previously. We saw that movie win a championship previously. We know how good that group is. But, Cedric, you bring up the fact that Kawhi Leonard playing at such a high level for the Raptors. Can he affect the Warriors in a way that the Portland Trailblazers couldn't, defensively especially? He can't guard all three of those guys, obviously, but his defense changes things so dramatically. It changed it in that series against the Bucks when he took on Giannis. So is it a possibility that Golden State is vulnerable without Durant, who's not going to be available, at least for this first game? Is that a possibility that maybe the Warriors are vulnerable if they don't have Durant against the Raptors?
Of course, because Kawhi is right now the best two-way player in the league, Jen. And I think the last time that they faced Golden State, he faced Golden State in a playoff series. He was going off for the Spurs, and then he landed on Zaza Pachulia's foot.
Yeah. And
that kind of changed that series, and the Spurs were up like 25 in that game. And he was never the same after that. So I'm sure Kawhi remembers that. They ask a lot of him because he's so dynamic defensively, and I think it's a lot for him to shoulder. He's not healthy. He's got a leg problem, so he doesn't have that lift. Even though that dunk that we saw in the final game was fire. Mm-hmm. I think that they're asking a little bit too much of him. Even if Kevin Durant doesn't come back, the Warriors, who are banged up themselves, are expected to get DeMarcus Cousins back sometime in this series. And KD has already flown to Toronto ahead of Game 1, even though he's officially listed as out, which sends a message that maybe he will be ready for Game 2 or Game 3 back in Oakland. So I think Golden State is too powerful. Let's not forget, Jen, the Toronto Raptors overcame a couple of 15-point deficits just to get to the finals. Yeah. So you fall behind by 15 to Golden State 99% of the time. you're going to get an L. So I like Kawhi Leonard. I like what Kyle Lowry's giving them in these playoffs. Van Fleet, Siakam, and
Yeah.
the veteran Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
But on paper, you look at what Golden State's bringing to the table, plus that championship experience that you can't overlook. I think the Warriors are going to take the Raptors out in 5 games.
Yeah, the Warriors are they're hard to pick against because of all that they've done and the tradition that they've built in the last 5-6 years of just being able to win these type of series, surprise you sometimes. Coming back. Obviously, they had the one finals implosion against LeBron, but I don't think LeBron's putting on a Raptors jersey. So I think not that we know of. It is fascinating, though, the undercurrents of free agency. We've talked about this before on the Writer's Block. Where's Durant go? Where does Kawhi go? Are they going? All those questions wrapped up into this final series. All that will be talked about, dissected, probably over-dissected, but NBA Finals get underway. I think it's going to be fun basketball, so I'm looking forward to some good basketball. All right, let's go on to segment 2. We're calling it Say What? And I know that's a little flip, but we've got a serious subject here, Cedric, and that being Art Briles' return to football coaching in America, hired by Mount Vernon ISD, a smaller school district in Texas, your state, Cedric. This is creating a lot of hubbub, as it should. Art Briles, embroiled in the scandal at Baylor a few years ago, now going to be coaching high school football. What's the view from down in the Lone Star State?
Well, I wrote in my Goldens Nuggets column this week on Statesman.com that Mount Vernon absolutely whiffed on this hire. What are you doing hiring Art Briles? You're a Class 3A school in East Texas, where I'm from. I've covered Mount Vernon back in the day when I was on preps for the Tyler Morning Telegraph. Nice area. Dandy Don Meredith is from there. The Cowboys great. How the trustees voted 7-0 to hire Art Briles after he is absolutely was complicit in a cover-up of dozens of sexual assault crimes on his campus at Baylor, and never really showed a whole lot of remorse for what happened to all those young women on that campus. Lost his job, but cashed in on a $15 million buyout, and I just don't know that that's a great look for a high school. Impressionable young men and women walking around that campus, and Art Briles has already showed a willful disregard to the safety of those young women in Waco. So I thought it was a horrible hire by the Mount Vernon ISD. And I'm not saying that Art Briles shouldn't be denied a chance to make a living. I thought he should have wound up coaching a pro team somewhere, NFL, CFL, or a just somewhere where it's already grown men walking around and you don't have to be responsible for their actions. So I know that there are people defending him still, which I think is a joke. I asked those people, what if that was your daughter, your niece, your sister that was directly affected by him not showing responsibility for the actions of his football players? So bad hire, horrible PR nightmare in Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
And I just think that I just don't think that Art Briles should be on a high school campus, Jen.
It's pretty clear to me, Cedric, that the folks in Mount Vernon had an idea that this was not a good decision, because they made the announcement that they were hiring Art Briles on a Friday, the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and it also happened to be graduation a couple hours later in Mount Vernon. So the fact that the timing of it just says to me they were aware that this was not a good choice. They wanted to try to bury it. They wanted to try to get it over on people, if you will. And instead, it's blown up in their face. Their superintendent holding a press conference on Tuesday and saying that they vetted Art Briles, but then when he was asked, who did you talk to? Did you talk to the NCAA? No. Did you talk to victims from Baylor? No. Who did you talk to? Talk to people that know Art Briles well. Well, you think those people might be pulling for Art Briles to have another chance if they're friends with him? To me, the vetting was not really vetting. What they did was they talked to people that they thought would tell them what they wanted to hear. I'm with you, Cedric. I think Art Briles, if he's going to coach again, it needs to be at the professional level. And even that has been, I mean, we saw him get an opportunity, I think, in the CFL, and
Yes.
there was such a hubbub about it, they said, okay, never mind, we're backing away. And yet here's a school district with teenagers who are, unwittingly, they live in the district. They can't decide, I'm out of here, I'm going to go play somewhere else. The girls, the young women on that high school campus, they can't decide, I'm leaving. They live in that district. And so I just think for, a high school to say, this is who we want to be teaching our young people, to be coaching our young people. It's just such a bad choice, and so many kids are getting this choice inflicted on them by the adults that should know better. And I just think that's a horrible decision for those young people. I mean, I'm surprised, Cedric, at this point they haven't changed course, but to my knowledge, they've dug in. They're saying that he's the guy that they're going with. I just don't know how they get to the season with him in place. There's going to be protests at their games, Cedric. I mean, people are going to come out of the woodwork to try to get this guy off the sidelines.
You know what? And when you think about it, they turned the Facebook comments off on their Facebook page because I'm sure there was some uproar locally and externally as well. And then in the press release that Jason McCullough, the superintendent, released, there's a quote from Grant Taft saying that Art Briles never had any recruiting violations at Baylor. This isn't about recruiting violations, man. If this is just about recruiting violations, he's fine. This is about common decency and prioritizing the welfare of young people, men and women, over winning football games. Right. So I just think that Art Briles, I know that there are people that have written me and told me that I was piling on. But you know what? I've got relatives who have been victims of sexual assault, so that kind of hit home with me. And so when I think about all of the violence perpetrated on those young girls at Baylor, I think that people like Art Briles and the AD Ian McCaw and Ken Starr, all of those people should be put to the fire, because there's never any excuse for an adult to overlook, to dismiss the welfare of young college students.
Yeah, and let's remember too, Art Briles had a chance to meet with one of those victims and did not show up to that meeting. I just, in addition to the young people, in that school district, Mount Vernon School District, for these victims to continue to have all of this brought up, the Baylor victims, as you mentioned, Cedric, just so many of them, it's just got to be such a painful reminder that there wasn't a lot of contrition or a lot of indication that Art Briles had learned much through this whole thing. So it'll just be interesting to see how it plays out. The heat is on Mount Vernon. I'm curious to see what they do. I hope they do the right thing. Art Briles can coach again. I just don't think he should be coaching high school or college anytime soon. All right, let's go on to segment 3, and we're going to do going off the rails. Cedric, I think there might be no better definition of going off the rails than this churn that seems to keep coming out of Los Angeles and the Lakers. And now it's Rob Pelinka making up stories about Heath Ledger and Kobe. What in the world is going on in L.A.?
It's a dysfunctional circus of the type of which I haven't seen in quite some time. Magic Johnson quits abruptly. ESPN did a great expose on the whole situation. Characterized Magic Johnson as pretty much a bad boss, a bully at work, not the fun-loving, perfect smile Magic that we've all grown up loving. And Rob Pelinka, I mean, I know you mentioned GM Rob Pelinka and Heath Ledger. The story is he was having a conversation with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and mentioned that Kobe saw Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight and told Rob Pelinka, I got to set up a dinner with Heath Ledger because he was so locked into that role. I just loved him in that. And so according to Pelinka, Heath Ledger and Kobe went out to dinner and talked about how Heath Ledger prepared for that role. Problem was, Heath Ledger had been dead for 6 months before the movie came out. So Rob Pelinka, that's some clown stuff there, Jen. I don't know what's going on there. And from what I've read and what I've seen with the Magic Show and Jeannie Buss and all of that, I think Rob Pelinka is the perfect general manager for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah. Well, and Cedric, we've talked a little bit about this too, but the way this keeps going, and it just keeps adding layers to the questionable nature of so many things going on behind the scenes, and the people that have been hired and trusted to uphold this great tradition of the Lakers. I got to think there are players out there that might be on the free agent market who are saying, maybe I want to play in LA, maybe I want to play for the Lakers, but is now the time? Does anybody want to mess with this? I mean, that has to be a huge problem for the Lakers. The perception, Cedric, you and I have both dealt with smaller market franchises. You've covered the Spurs over the years. Obviously here in Oklahoma City, there's a lot of talk about, can small market teams, draw in free agents? At this point, I like these small market teams' chances of drawing in free agents equal or better than what the Lakers are showing right now. Doesn't LeBron have to be somewhere? Maybe he's smoking a stogie like we saw pictures of him doing with Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. But doesn't he have to be sitting somewhere going, what have I gotten myself into here?
He has to be. Magic didn't even tell him he was quitting.
Crazy.
He had to find out on SportsCenter. So to me, I just think that for Magic, not a good look for Magic,
No.
not a good look for Jeannie Buss, not a good look for Rob Pelinka. And now you have this generation's Michael Jordan is stuck in LA now, and no one wants to come to play there. LaMarcus Aldridge turned him down 2 years ago. Anthony Davis, they tried to trade him. He may end up coming to LA. I don't know. Kawhi Leonard, no stranger to drama himself, is from LA and is going to be a free agent, and all indications are he's going to leave Toronto no matter what happens in this series. So he may end up with the Los Angeles Clippers, who are a much better run organization right now with Steve Ballmer, the owner, and Doc Rivers, arguably the best coach in the game, not named Popovich. So I think that Kawhi might end up with the Clippers, and Anthony Davis might end up with the Clippers, and you're looking at a championship contender playing in the Staples Center, but not with LeBron James. That would be some story.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's finish on, speaking of going off the rails, let's finish on a lighter subject, because no Lakers fans think what we just talked about is a light subject. But a first pitch that went off the rails, Cedric. This was at a Chicago White Sox game. Apparently, an employee of the month got the opportunity to throw out the first pitch. She's on the mound. It looked like the team had a team photographer standing to the side, ready to document this great moment, this first pitch, celebrating her achievements and her contributions to the franchise. She not only doesn't get that pitch to home plate, she beans the photographer who is standing right next to her practically. I don't know about you, Cedric, but I freak out when I hear people singing the national anthem a cappella, because I'm always worried they're going to forget the words. But now I may freak out even more when I see first pitches involving people that may have some, not have some baseball or softball background. I may have a new thing to be worried about, because that was terrible.
They may need to just get rid of the first pitch. I thought the 50 Cent one was bad, but that may have been the worst one I've ever seen.
Oh my goodness.
That poor photographer, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
When did it become so dangerous to be a photographer?
And you know what? The gal that threw it was laughing, seemingly uninterested in how the photographer was. So, it was not a great moment. But I guess maybe the Chicago White Sox are getting some attention now for baseball-related things, although that's sort of a stretch to say.
Are they still playing baseball at the Okonisky, are they?
I think so, but after that first pitch, we may have to question what they know about the sport. We'll have to see. Yeah, believe me, if anybody's throwing out a first pitch anytime soon, I will be taking cover somewhere far, far away to make sure I'm not victim to that. All right, that's it for the Writer's Block this week. We'll be back next week. Can't wait to see you then.